It's 4 p.m., so I would say let's start at least my introduction. It will help people to find a way to come in. I think everybody knows Angel, of course. He will be our main speaker today. And so I'm happy to share with him today this new model context protocol. So Angel told me it's something shared by Anthropic, the makers of Claude. So, I mean, it should become a standard, but we will see what Angel is doing with it. And first of all, of course, Happy New Year to everybody. It's not too late. It's the first time we meet this year. Every time I'm really happy to welcome you into this Tech Talk Live, but particularly here, I would say we have had a tremendous program last year with a lot of things around artificial intelligence. And this is still the trend. I mean, this is what we do again today. But yes, I hope you will be, I would say, even more to propose the Tech Talk Live, because it's cool when, it's Highland people speaking, but it's even more cool, I would say, when you take the lead and you show some integration or some work you are doing. So again, come speak with Angel and I, and don't be shy. We are, attendees to the Tech Talk Live, they don't eat people. It's not possible thanks to the camera and the internet distance. So please come speak with us and let's have great Tech Talk Lives with you. That said, I would like to highlight two things on the Highland website. I will put the link later into the chat, of course, as usual. One is what we call the resource center on highland.com. And we have published recently, so last fall, a huge work has been done to work with many companies who are using Highland products, so they accept to share what they do with it, what they solved, etc. So of course, they will not give you away all the secret things. But what is interesting is that I was searching a bit just to write some articles for Connect, and I was quite amazed to discover that there are 58 use cases just for the Alfresco platform. And of course, if you want to discover other products from Highland, like, I think you know Nuxeo, at least by the name. And there are also stuff about all the other products based on Base, of course. But so just have a look, discover, who are the big companies or small companies who are accepted to share that they use Alfresco. And that could be something really cool to see and maybe give you some inspiration to find new customers and new ideas. The second thing I would like to introduce, so you see today we are using a new platform, so we are dropping away Zoom. At least we are trying this new platform and see how it works, and if you like it, and if we like it, of course, if it's cool to use it. What I particularly like is that, like Google Meet, it works in the browser, meaning that people don't have to install a client or something difficult. You just have to log into events.highland.com with your Highland ID. And if you have been on Alfresco Hub and if you are going to connect.highland.com, the new forum, then you already have a Highland ID. So it's quite easy for you to join. So I will continue to put the next events on the platform, of course. And I would like to highlight this one. So with my colleague community managers, we do a monthly webinar to welcome new people to the community website, to connect to Ireland, and we show you the ecosystem. So some of it, of course, is for customers. So people who use the community edition might not be able to access everything that is demonstrated into this video. Last week, we had more than 3,000 people attending on the same platform. This is platform we have with events.island.com. So it's working very well compared to other video conference solution. And of course, we had a huge Q&A with like 30 or 40 questions that we took time to answer. It's presented in English. And if you want to know more about, I would say, the Highland websites in general, how you can use them, how they are useful, I mean, feel free to join. It's easy to find. It's on the homepage of events.highland.com. You just have, I mean, to, like you did for joining today, RSVP, and you will get the email with all the information to join in time. I see we are close to 40, so that's wonderful. And so today, and who tech evangelist Angel, I know that he is a bit sick. He has been sick, I mean, in the last few days. So, I mean, thanks, Angel. I mean, you committed to do it and you're here, but I know you're quite exhausted. So, I mean, let's do the best you can and show us this great new protocol. I stop share. And I mean, up to you now.
Perfect. Thanks, Antoine. Yes, let me see if I'm able to share the window. I guess that now everyone can see my window. So let's start with the session today. As Antoine said, I had not all the time I wanted to prepare the session, but it's complete. In any case, we can evolve this proposal, this proof of concept, if you like it. But okay, perfect. But let's focus on the topic. So Alfresco and the model context protocol. So this model context protocol is an standard, but we are going to go into the details later. So what I was thinking is that AI is evolving a lot, as Antoine said. So on the last year, we were talking about semantic search, about RAG, about AI, LLMs, and a lot of topics. So I'm going just to review all these concepts so we can understand what this model context protocol is providing. And finally, I'm going to present a kind of project, a kind of MCP server for Alfresco that allows us to test these concepts on a real platform. So let's start by the beginning. That is semantic search. So if you remember, like I don't know, 8 months ago, something like that. So a lot of time ago, we were exploring this semantic search. So with a semantic search, what you are getting is the results not by using the terms of the prompt, but using the meaning of the prompt. So if you type, how can I integrate Alfresco with an external REST API on a regular Solar Elasticsearch OpenSearch system, they will pick all these terms. How can integrate Alfresco external REST API? And then they will get all the documents that contain these exactly terms. However, with the semantic search, that is mainly just expressing all the context as vector in a vector database, and then just making this prompt translated into a vector scheme and getting back that. So trying to search by the meaning, right? So this is the difference. I'm not just going to the terms, but searching by the meaning. So if you make this semantic search, you will get this kind of 5 sample results that are including synonyms, but not synonyms that you need to define in the index itself, right? They are synonyms provided by the LLM itself. You are also integrating some relationships like authentication or web scripts or use cases because the LLM knows that this is related to the external REST API. Also some contextual relevance like development and configuration. So this is not only for development, but likely it's also related to configuration and a broader understanding, like trying to get results not only for developers, but also for admin users. So all these additional aspects of a regular search are provided by a semantic search. So mainly what we have is our knowledge database, our knowledge base, that is Alfresco. What we are doing is just to reindex all the information on Alfresco by doing an embedding, by using this specific LLM that is extracting these parts of the information and storing that as vector on the vector database. You can use OpenSearch or Elasticsearch as this vector database, and then we are just performing this similarity search in order to get the documents. We can also mix or we can weight the results. So we can say, okay, use this semantic search in a 75%, but still give me on the other 25% the classical BM25 search by using search by terms, right? So we can also do that. But this is like the main way of doing, right? So we need to create this embedding to storage our vector database, and then we perform the search, and we get the documents not by the terms, but by the meaning of the question, of the prompt of the user. So for that, we need to pick an embedding library. So this is a small or smaller LLM that just get these vectors from text. So this is like the main function of this. In our sample, we were using Nomic, but you have a lot of different samples on how to use that. So including this also as a sample, but there are a lot of them. But for these states, you still need to use an LLM, a small LLM, or an NLP framework that is just getting vectors from this test and is creating the sentence that the embedding that you can store on the vector database. And also, you need a vector database. There are many vector database. Usually, if you are using Alfresco, you can pick OpenSearch or Elasticsearch because you already know how that works. And for use that, the only difference is that you need to define a different index. So the index has not the same settings as the classic index used for indexing text and so on. But all the infrastructure is exactly the same, right? So my suggestion is that if you want to move forward with this, just pick OpenSearch or Elasticsearch because both are fine for this purpose. We were presenting last year also this sample. So you have this Alfresco OpenSearch Neural Search project that includes exactly this implementation. So we have the query, and then we have this pipeline with the ingest specific for that is just sending the text to the ML framework. That was Nomic in our case. Then we are getting the vectors, and then we are indexing these vectors into this KNN index. That is this different index from the classic ones that now both OpenSearch and Elasticsearch provides, right? So you want the details, you can just check this source code, but likely today is more easy to create that. But that was at that moment and was right? Using semantic search instead using by the term itself or synonyms that we need to define by ourselves, we are just using semantic search, and all this additional stuff is provided by the LLM itself. Okay, perfect. So this was like the first approach or semantic search with a new index, this KNN index, that helped us to get results in a different way. And then we move to the retrieval element generation, to the RAG. That is the classic technique that we were using on the last year. So in this case, what we are doing, it's exactly the same thing. So we are creating sentences with a meaning. So we don't want to search by the specific terms. And what we are doing with the results, so the first step is usually exactly the same thing, right? So I'm going to get this prompt and I'm going to send the prompt to the vector database, and I'm going to get these 5 results. With these 5 results, I'm going to use the key information in the context of the prompt. So I'm going to enrich the prompt with the context that is expressed in these documents, and I'm going to send everything together to the LLM. So the LLM is not getting only the prompt, but also a rich context with information that is specifically tailored for the question that was originally created. So with that, we get a more accurate response, and we don't need like a very large LLM in order to provide this accurate response. And also we are avoiding some hallucinations because we are grounding the response with this specific context that we are getting from the document. So this is the basic RAG technique that, as you can see, is again. So we get the user query, we get the query embedding. So we are calculating the embedding this vector expression of the sentence. Then we are performing the similarity search on OpenSearch, Elasticsearch in order to get the documents or the part of the documents that are relevant to the topic, and then we are sending together all this contextual data, all this context with the user query to the LLM. So in this case, what we need in additional to this NLP part for the embedding part, we now need also an LLM because the LLM is the one getting both the context and the prompt, and that is providing the answer. So in this case, we are using both mechanisms. So in addition to the previous one, what we need to choose is an LLM. So this, in order to choose this LLM, so they are changing like every month. Also, Mistral is still working fine. I'm just including the one that you can run locally, okay? But you can use also OpenAI with ChatGPT. I mean, you can use Claude from Anthropic. You can use many others. But I'm talking about the one that you can run locally if you want for your testing. And then for a production environment, you can decide what to choose. So Mistral is still working fine. DeepSeek is Chinese. In the last months, DeepSeek has gained traction because there is a new evolution of the LLMs that is the reasoning branch of this LLM. So the LLM is not sending the first response, is not only evaluating one alternative to your prompt, but is evaluating many of them in parallel. So they can provide something that is better in terms of quality because they are not only following one path, but many of them. And then at the end, they are just getting all the information together and providing a prompt. So the response. So obviously, you are just consuming more resources to produce this kind of response, but the response is better. And you don't need a better original LLM, right? All that you need is like more resources. So this is, for instance, on ChatGPT, you have the ChatGPT 4.0, that is the standard LLM, and then you have the ChatGPT 01, that is the reasoning LLM. That is the one using ChatGPT 4.0 as base, but with this mechanism of sending different threads in parallel with different lines of reasoning. and then just getting everything together to provide the response. So this SIG, it's famous has gained traction because of this, because it looks like it's free. I don't know if it's open source because they have this DeepSeek license agreement that have some K-hits and so on, so you need to inspect that. But they are competing with ChatGPT, even being a pure, they say pure, open source LLM. Obviously, then you have all the Llama family from Meta. They work fine. Again, they are not open source. They have the community license, so you need also to look at that. Then you have the Yema from Google family. This other that is also Chinese, but is working fine. Quen, the Quen family. And also you have some proposals from Microsoft. In any case, this is changing, right? So just pick the one you want to test, and then once you go to production, then you can decide if you want to use a service, or if you want to use a local LLM or whatever. But looking at the license should be something quite relevant, because today, so we have Apache licenses or mid licenses, but all the other are like specific tailored license for this specific LLM, right? So just be aware of that. And for this rack, then you have this Alfresco AI framework. So in this one, we were using Elasticsearch as vector database. Then we were using Olama. I guess that you know Olama. So Olama in the end is a server of LLMs. So it's a wrapper, a REST API that is providing a wrapper over different LLMs. So you can connect to Olama, and Olama is able to connect you to, I don't know, to Llama, to Mistral, to Phi, to Quen, to whatever, right? But you only need to create this connection with Olama, and then you can change your LLM. So this is why I like to use Olama, because you can just create your integration, and then you can switch from one LLM to another very quick without changing anything. We were using Quen for the chatting system, and for the embedding we were using Nomic. Okay, again, make your choice. And then we were using Spring AI. We are going to use Spring AI also today. So Spring LangChain was like the most famous library. It's a Python library that is fine. But Spring started to create also an AI support, and it's evolving fast, and it's evolving with a secure way, so you can trust on that. So I decided also to use that for the MCP, and also for RAP as support. So we were integrating that, and then we were just doing all the integration with Alfresco, right? So again, you have the sample in this project. Okay, we're done. So that was history. What about the future? So what is this kind of new standard that we are talking about, the Model Context Protocol, the MCP? So the MCP is an open standard designed by Anthropic to unify how applications communicate context to AI models. If you remember, when using RAG, we were enriching this context to the LLM in order to get a better answer. So this is more or less the same idea, that with more options for you, and also in a standard way. So you can connect your LLM with this MCP server in a standard way, and behind you can have Alfresco, or you can have a database, or you can have a search system, or you can have whatever, right? But this connection is a standard. If we look at the specification, the Model Context Protocol specification, this is only live from November. But even with that, there are a lot of servers that are already implemented. I guess that you cannot see my. Can you see my Antoine? Can you see my browser or not?
We see the presentation still.
Still okay. Yes. Let me check again. Okay. Screen. Okay.
Yeah, we see your browser now.
Okay, perfect. So this is the specification, right? So the specification, it's only like 2 months old. And even with that, these are the reference servers provided by Anthropic, by the people is just starting to provide also servers. So you have servers for Cloudflare, for Grafana, JetBrains, Neo4j, TinyBirds. So AWS. So many different people is joining this initiative. So this is why I think that is something that we need to look at, right? Because it's a new standard, and the people really like the standard, and we have tools to use the standard with Alfresco. So, what is the architecture of this idea? How this idea works? Okay, so we have an MCP host that mainly is a program. So Anthropic, originally, I guess, they created this to be connected to the cloud desktop application. So you can add these MCP servers to your application, and then you can choose between all of them in order to provide more context to your prompt. Then we have the MCP clients that are the one that are creating this connection with the different servers, and the client can be inside the host, for instance, in the case of Cloud Desktop. And then we have the server, and the server is the one that is covering this standard. We are going to see what the standard is later, but you need to create a server that is covering this standard. And then you can connect with local data source or remote services. So you can create an MCP server, for instance, for your file system. And you can connect to your file system by using this kind of server. Or you can create an MCP server for Alfresco, and then you are connecting to a remote service that can be an Alfresco running whatever. Okay, so this is the main architecture. So we have the MCP client that is the one talking with the MCP server, and the MCP server that is the one talking with the original resource. That can be a local resource or an Alfresco service, for instance. Okay, so what if we want to implement an MCP server? Then we have two different alternatives. So the first one is to use a Python SDK. You have the specification. This is not the specification. This is like a framework to build from that. Or you can use a TypeScript SDK. You can just put your guessing on the chat on which one I picked for my POC. That should be fun at the end of the session. So you can choose one of them just to create the implementation. and that's fun even now. Okay, so you need to pick one, right? It's not that complex. It's just a wrapper over Alfresco, so you just need to deal with the request and the response, and then to send it back. And then you can use three main type of capabilities. So the first one is resources. So this is files, right? So you can get resources from the MCP server. In the case of Alfresco, a resource would be like the content of a file. That would be a resource. Then you can create prompts. So you can have some pre-written templates that helps users to complete specific tasks. This is the classic prompt engineering. So I know that it's better to use this specific prompting that is so long when you want to get something. So I'm including that in your, I'm including this in my server. So I'm adding this context to the prompt every time I detect that is just trying to do whatever. And that is fine. This is what we have. But I guess that the most powerful concept is that now we can use tools. And what is a tool? It's whatever you want. So it's a function that you can that can be called by the LLM. So the LLM can use these tools in order to get the information it needs to provide the response. So a function can be search in Alfresco. A searching can be a function. A function can be get children of a folder or whatever you imagine, right? So there is no limit on the functions you can create. You just need to explain the LLM how to use that, and that is connected. That is the real magic of the protocol, I guess. So again, pick your SDK, identify your resources, prompts, and tools that you want to provide to the LLM, and go ahead. Resources. On the specification, the resources identified by this kind of syntax, right? So the protocol, the host, and the path. So for example, for Alfresco, we can pick the protocol Alfresco. So Alfresco, and then I'm not including the host because I'm leaving it empty. And then you can just home, user, documents, report, or whatever the path is, it, right? Or you can change that. But mainly the protocol is the name of the application, in our case, Alfresco. And then I choose to use the node ID because that is direct. So we don't need just all this very long path, host, and so on. So I choose to create that, right? Alfresco, and then the node ID. And that is very, very short. But you need to name the resources with a unique ID. When you are providing the content of a text resource, then it needs to contain UTF-8 text data, right? So you need to retain UTF-8 encoded data. So for source code, configuration files, or whatever, you can choose that. If we are talking about binary resource, they can contain binary data in base 64. In addition, the LLM needs to be able to handle with this, right? So if you are sending, I don't know, an Excel file, the LLM needs to understand an Excel file. Even if you are sending that in base 64, if the LLM doesn't know how to handle this, it won't work. But the modern LLMs are able to understand different formats. So this is also something interesting, as we don't need to extract tests, we don't need to create transformation. If the LLM itself supports the format, then that's fine. We convert that to base 64, and it's working. Okay, so the next one, prompts. So we can define templates, and inside the templates, we can accept arguments from the prompt. Sorry. We can include contents from other resources. We can chain multiple interactions, so we can just chain different prompts. Sorry again. We can also guide workflows, just trying to create some sequence of execution. And we can also use slash commands and so on. So this prompting is more or less the same thing with it by now, but you can do it in this standard. way. Okay. What came us to the tools that I guess that is like the most relevant. So these tools have like three different features that are really relevant. So the first one is discovery. So the clients, the MCP client, can get the list of tools that are available. So the MCP client is starting just saying, okay, what tools do you have for me? I have listing, I have getting content, I have resources, I have whatever, right? So that is nice. So for the invocation, so the tools are invoked transparently. So you don't need to specify what is the endpoint or how to do that, because they are invoked transparently without any additional prompting operation. And obviously you can create whatever complexity because it's an API. In the end, it's just a simple API. So get me something and I give you some other stuff. Okay, but I guess that this is better understandable if we move to the practical part of the session. So resources, prompts, tools, and we have an standard. So this standard, the first part is the transport. So for the transport, they are using JSON RPC 2.0 for the response, for the request, the response, and notifications that may arise. And for the transport type, you can use standard input output. We are going to use that today because it's something new, it's something different. So just standard input output, you are going to see how. Or you can use this server sent events. That is this streaming that you can see usually on these AI applications. However, if you want, you can create your custom transport implementation, right? So if you want to create a REST API, you are free to create a REST API. But we are going to explore this standard input output today because I found that is something new. Okay, so that was the server, right? With the specification in order to build a server. Remember, choose your flavor, add your resources, your tools, your prompts, and then create this implementation. And then for the client, what the client needs is to connect to the specified MCP server, just to be able to get all the available tools, and then just to start a session where you can just enter your prompts and just set the tool executions and get response and so on. So there are many frameworks today implementing this MCP client basic stuff. You have LangChain for HAMA, that is the version of, for Java of LangChain. Spring AI with the MCP module, that is the one I'm using today. And even on the Cloud desktop app, you have already this MCP client integrated. If you want to see that, let me see if that works. I can show you. So you have this tutorial on how to do that, right? But if you are able to configure that, I was configuring a Git tool. So this is connected with a local Git project. And then you can get this MCP server, is the MCP Git, and you can get also the number of tools that are available on the MCP. So there are 11 tools. So Git add, Git checkout, Git commit, Git create branch. So in this case, the nice, I don't know if this is a nice or dangerous thing, is that these tools are not only able, sorry, to read or to perform operation of reading, but they are also able to perform operations to change what is already happening, right? So this is something you also need to consider. If you want, for instance, to create a tool for Alfresco, you have to say, okay, change the title of this document to whatever. That may work or not. So there is some kind of risk at this point, right? So again, you can follow these instructions and then you can just configure yourself and make some test with sorry, give me 1 minute. Okay, I'm back. So you can use that with the cloud desktop application if you want. Very not that simple, but simple in order to test these MCP tools. Okay, and once we know about the protocol and about the features and how to implement that, let's think on how to implement that with Alfresco. So what I did is a small implementation, a small POC that is just using default Alfresco repository, community, enterprise, whatever version, it doesn't matter, whatever modern version, I mean, let's say 7.x or later. Then I created, and now I can go to the I can go to the log and see who was right. I was picking the TypeScript SDK in order to create the Alfresco MCP server. Uh, you can uh, you can choose Python at this in this step, but I was choosing the TypeScript SDK. And then I'm creating the MCP client with the help of Spring AI that already provides this MCP client. And then as LLM, I'm using Olama, again, because I like to use Olama locally, because it allows me to switch from different LLMs very easily. So this is the project we are going to explore today. And let me find this. Okay. So we have three different folders, right? So we have this is the classical Docker Compose for Alfresco. Then we have the server that is so easy as this, right? So as you can see, I'm creating a server from this Model Context Protocol SDK server. And then I'm also implementing the standard input-output transport. If you choose some different transport, you can implement that, or you can just change it, right? And I'm just implementing the list tools, request schema, read resource, so reading a resource, and call any tool. So I'm using tools, right? Call tool and list tools. And I'm also using a resource that is a read resource. I'm using these three different features of the standard. Configuration, the host, the username, the password, and so on. But let me find the, okay, so for this one, for instance, as you can see, this is the scheme, right? So I'm expecting a Fresco as a starting, and then the node ID, and I'm just getting the information and setting the information back, okay? So I'm just setting the information back, and with base 64, if that is blob, I guess, yeah. Okay, I have also the list tools. So I'm providing mainly only search and read content as tools. And this is the search. So for the search, I'm returning the URI, the main type and the name, and that is more or less everything, right? So quite easy. So I'm just providing two different tools. That one is getting the search from something, and the other is read the content. And then for the client implementation, what I have is again Spring AI. So with the Spring AI that is still on milestone, so we don't have a release yet. I'm using Olama, so I need Olama running, and I'm using this Spring AI MCP. Okay, that is the one that is providing the MCP client. So on the configuration, I'm using, in this case, Llama. And as I'm using the input-output, I need to run the server locally. So this is why I'm setting the node version and the location of the of the source code of the MCP server, right? And also the credentials to connect to the Alfresco. So the source code, again, it's quite simple. So the first thing is we need to create this function callback. So this is to get the list of tools, so we can get the list of tools available. And then we start the MCP client just sending all this information to the server. So the server can be initialized with this Alfresco host, username, and so on. So with that, I have the MCP client initialized. I have also the list of tools I can create, and I can start at that client. So on the same context, so this is how in memory, so you can interconnect one prompt and response with the previous one. So I'm just building that with the file functions that are the one provided by the MCP server. And then I'm just using this prompt to call to this chat client. So the chat client is only connected to the MCP server, right? And I'm not just telling it to use any other tool. So we go to the command line. Remember that I have the Alfresco server at this point. This is a regular Java project from Spring Boot. So we can run that from command line. So the first is get a list with all the invoice document together with the Alfresco URI, right? This happens. This happens sometimes. I know that there are some of them. Just let me find it. So at least there are two invoices. So this happens sometimes, but the probabilities are low, but it happens. So this is why we cannot delegate all the power for changing operations. So in this case, he found right the two different invoices. So he created the search, and the search was performed, and it interpreted the results. So the next one should be just to pick one of them. So provide the total cost of the invoice, this one, for instance, so the first one. So now it's downloading the content and it's starting the content, and the total cost of the invoice is this amount of pounds, and it's not able to find the view, but it finds some other information, right? So the nice thing about this is that the LLM itself, only with the context, only with this context of additional tools and so on, was able to decide that it needed to create a search, and then it was interpreting the result of the search, and then on the next one, it was able just to identify that he needed to use this tool to download the content of a file, and then once the file is downloaded, he was able to do whatever else, right? But there is no clear relationship between the prompt and making the tool invocation, the tool call, right? So this is the sample I have today. Obviously, it's a very simple and a starting point, but in my opinion, it's a very powerful standard and that can be used for many different things. And the nice thing is that you can connect to Alfresco or to some or to many other servers by using exactly the same MCP client, right? The same approach. Obviously, it has restrictions because all the information is added to the context. So you are reducing the context for the user with the information you are adding about the tools and so on. But it's a very transparent way of providing powerful to the LLM. So that was everything from my side. And now, Antoine, I'm just I want to hear our attendees.
Yeah. So
How many ideas do you have in mind so we can create an Alfresco MCP server in TypeScript if you want?
I mean, I think you should be. I mean, attendees should be able to enable their cameras and microphone. It's just they have to allow that into their browser. But I mean, there's no restriction on my side. So I mean, maybe there's an issue with Bevy. I mean, the platform, but you should be able if you're not shy. That said, there is a question. Yeah, okay. I was coming to that. I think you read it, but I will read it for the recording. So transferring binary info in base 64, if we deal with some big resources, this could be a problem. Are the resources being loaded onto LLM like in a job in the background, or it's loaded on demand? I mean, what do you think?
So my implementation was not dealing with that. My implementation of the MCP server, right? So on my TypeScript code, I'm not addressing this problem, but the protocol itself supports streaming. So when you want to send a lot of information, instead of sending the whole information, you open a stream and start sending all the stream into the channel. You, in this case, the input output, right? So it's supported, but you need to take care of that in your implementation of the MCP server. This is the answer.
Okay, cool. Jamil Ahmed is telling in the chat that he's really interested to, enhance or implement that. So, I mean, if you want to contribute on Hell, what's the way to go? Pull request on your repo. What's the best way?
Yeah. So in this case, this is a very experimental project, right? So you have some ideas. I guess that the best is to open an issue on the project, just to say, okay, what about? I'm thinking that a good tool for Alfresco should be, and then we can decide if we use this project or we start a new one or we use the Python SDK or whatever.
Yeah, no. Of course, I was joking in the chat. I don't, to be honest, I don't have a preference for one versus another. There are two serious languages for me that are, used. So sorry for the joke, and I don't want to offend anybody. We have another question from Andrea Fiorucci. I hope I pronounce that well. But I'm not very good with pronouncing name from other countries. How does MCP server communicate with Alfresco and MCP client? Does it use HTTP or something else?
I guess that I need Okay, just let me share again the screen. Okay, so we have the MCP server that implements the MCP protocol, right? And this one, in my case, again, is communicating by using the REST API with Alfresco, right? So this communication is happening from the MCP server to Alfresco using the REST API. The communication between the MCP client and the MCP server, in my case, again, as I choose standard input-output, is happening in the standard input-output. So they are using the standard input-output to send information and to receive information. But you can choose another protocol if you want. I guess that this addresses the question, right, Andrea? If not, yes, I can explain that better. But it's because of using this standard input-output because I thought that it was nice because it was new, and it's a bit confusing. So this is a standard input-output, and this part is using the standard REST API of Alfresco. Okay.
Nice. A new question from Luis Colorado. So he missed the beginning, but did you cover how to train the LLM to work with Alfresco? I think we didn't in this presentation today, but I think we did that last year, if I'm not wrong.
So this is another alternative that we want. We are not covering in this presentation. Mm-hmm. That is a pre-train or something like that to an LLM, just to be more oriented to Alfresco or to whatever, right? So this can be done, but this is expensive. So my recommendation is try with RAG first because it's cheaper. And if that doesn't work, then move to pre-training LLMs. But it's today, this is still expensive. And I don't know if the results between a good RAG and a pre-trained LLM are, if the money invested, it's worth it, right?
Yeah, I shared in the chat, by the way, where you can find all the recordings from last year and even before. And in November, we have had a very interesting 3 hours webinar about artificial intelligence, and Angel did a demonstration about RAG. So, Luis, I guess maybe that's something you want to watch. And of course, all the resources are available. Have a look at it. It's very interesting. Andrea is saying thanks. Nagaja will say great demo. I mean, nice. And okay. I think we are done.
Okay, so just final works. I was playing with this for some days, right? I found it really powerful. So I'm really open to ideas. I'm really open just to draft a more solid project than this one. And just to spend some time on it, and why not to present that POC to Alfresco in order to get that as part of the product if we find the value on it, right? Being an standard that has only 2 months, it was really hard just to include that in the product.
Yeah, and plus, right? I mean, there's not a lot of resources. I mean, we saw that adoption is large already. It's impressive to see how much connection you can use with the vector databases. It's a short time, 3 or 4 months to have all those people contributing or having connectors. But yeah, it's quite new, so it's difficult to find information and use cases also.
And also something that is nice and that I didn't mention is that you can use almost any LLM So there are no LLMs that are supporting tools and others that are not supporting tools. All of them are supporting tools. But obviously, you use ChatGPT, the latest, is using better the tools than Mistral. But all of them can use this MCP approach. I guess that we have time for a last question.
Yes, there is a last question in the chat.
Yeah.
Can you use this MCP demo in future to automatically add metadata to documents?
It can be used for that, but as I said, and you saw that on my demo. So if I were playing my demo like I don't know 20 times, 1 out of 20 was not finding the invoices. So in my opinion, it's too risk for an operation like that, like modifying metadata of documents.
And I mean, I will say that differently. If you feed a document to a good AI, something that you cannot run locally, okay, and you want an abstract, a summary of that, or extract the most, and you ask to extract the most important information, you can send that 20 times, and 20 times you will have different results. Even still today, it will be better than 1 or 2 years ago, sure. But I mean, you can have errors. So it means that at one point you must have someone checking at least. It's different from what we have other solution at Highland which recognize the invoice, but you have to train. I mean, there's a lot of things to do to be sure that invoices will be automatically detected. Here, it's different because you rely on the LLM to figure it out alone. Myself, I would not do that, but I mean, up to you.
Okay, so we are out of time.
Yeah. Thank you very much. We were like 40, 45 people today attending for first of the year. It's quite cool with this new platform. I hope you liked how Bevy is working. And so see you in 1 month. I'm working with Highland University team to have insights on how to become certified and what are the benefits and other things. So if we can come out with some content, it should be about that. But I mean, I have other ideas too. So let's meet in 1 month. Bye.